Hello, everyone. Welcome to Voices of the Vessel. I'm Shelby, the Director of Marketing for the Badger, the Lake Michigan Car Ferry. This podcast is dedicated to highlighting the people and voices from over the years who have made the Badger what she is today, as she is celebrating 70 years of service. This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Pier Ludington and Visit Manitowoc, our wonderful port cities. Today's episode, I am really excited to include Mitch and Becky Foster, who have a really cool story to tell and have some awesome connections with the car ferry. That they are newer to the Ludington area, but they've really made a big impact since they've been here. Thank you, Mitch and Becky, for joining us today.
Hey, thank you.
Absolutely.
You're very welcome. And so let's talk about what brought you to Ludington.
So I actually grew up in Scottville. I grew up here, left when I was 16 years old. My father owned a grocery store here. And so 14 or so years later, I applied for the city manager position in the spring or late winter of 2019 and was lucky enough to be awarded the position as city manager here in Ludington. And Becky followed in May of that year after I moved over in March. So it's been just about 4 years now.
Awesome. Well, we're really excited to have you here. And it's only been since 2019. It seems like it's been longer than that.
Yes, it does.
How cool. And, I think it's amazing what you both do in the community and, like I said, make a large impact. But with your job, that must be pretty fun being the city manager. What's that like?
Fun is a relative term on a daily basis. There are some days where it's really entertaining, like stuff like this with you, Shelby, having fun conversations with Mayor Nichols and Manitowoc about, cooperative arrangements there, working on economic development. There are other days where it's, dealing with the upset resident or the upset visitor about different things. So every day is a little bit different, but I get to see the best of Ludington on a regular basis, which to me is pretty awesome, especially seeing and getting to work with folks there at Interlake and Lake Michigan Car Ferry.
Definitely. Well, I should say you do the job well. That it's been great working with you and getting to know you, but I will say I will keep my job and let you do yours. I mean that in the best way, but you make it look easy and fun.
Oh, stop it. It's to you as well, Shelby. Doing marketing and sales would be something I'd fall flat on my face on. We can both keep our own positions, I think, at this point.
Well, fair enough. But no, you do a great job. That's great to have you here. So what's been your favorite thing about Ludington?
Oh, go ahead if you want to.
Yeah, just from my perspective, we settled in more quickly than we thought we would. It's such a community feel. Mitch's job helped us meet a lot of people, mine too, eventually. And we feel like we have a community here. We feel even people that, you run into at the grocery store and not much else, you can reach out to anybody and say, hey, I need help with this, or will you assist me? And you'd get a yes every time. So we feel like there's a lot of things to do for us as individuals, as a couple, and with the kids. So there's plenty, it's a Saturday or a Sunday, we have plenty of options. We can go hang out in Ludington in lots of groups to get involved in. And we've done plenty of that. So we really enjoy the community feel and specifically the people.
Yeah, I would agree with you that the people especially, but that community feeling that we have here in Ludington, I mean, it's a little different for me. Like I grew up here, but it's always so awesome to see like newer people. And I mean that in the best way, that come to the community and like, oh my gosh, like this truly is a community. So I'm glad you felt that, but it's really a special place to be. I'm glad you guys get to be a part of it.
We agree. Yeah, we've been in a few different communities this far, and this is the one that we sunk into the deepest, and it wasn't even with us trying. It's just, we're surrounded by greatness.
Well said. Well said. And so you guys have some ties to Wisconsin. How does the Badger play into your travel plans with that?
Yeah, I grew up in Wisconsin on the west side. And so we've been taking the Badger for quite a few years. It was a good connector when Mitch and I were dating in college summers, where I was in Wisconsin and he was here. My family is there, and it's just a nice, relaxing way to cross the lake. You think about driving. and it's not as relaxing, and there's nothing for my kids to do. So, there's, and even for us, it's just a wonderful way to connect. And I feel like when I get there, I'm not, tired, stressed, whatever. It's just a nice way to spend the day. So it's, we're traveling to get somewhere, but we're also experiencing the Badger as well. So it's twofold.
That's awesome. What I think has been really funny and sweet in regards to like my job and such, I get to meet a lot of awesome people. And I feel like I've met like probably your whole family now. That thank you for having them sail as well. But I'll never forget when I met your dad, and it was after you had your son, and just really sweet guy. And he was carrying this really cute, like, rocking horse giraffe thing. And I saw him like, sir, you could tell he was very proud of it, first of all. And I said, sir, I'd be happy to store that for you in the cruise director's office so you don't have to carry it. And he's like, oh no, I'm just really excited to get to Ludington and meet my grandson. My daughter just had a baby. And you could just definitely feel the love and passion. But it was so cool. Once he got off board, that he was meeting you guys. And I was like, I should have put 2 and 2 together who this was. But it was just how neat to see the way that the Badger connects people and having those reunions. And I mean, people are really excited about the journey across, but the people who are really excited to get off and meet their family and all that.
Mm-hmm. We enjoy that part of it as well. I don't think we would travel back and forth as much without the Badger. So that's been personally to us as a family, from my family and us here. Very helpful. And just a really fun thing we look forward to riding the Badger. It's not, like I said, twofold. We look forward to our trip, but also that experience.
But it's also when her family comes across, or if we go over there, it's also fun now, especially with the kids, to go down to the end of ferry and wave at the grandparents as they're coming in, or wave goodbye to our friends when we're leaving, or waving at hello to the grandparents when we get to Manitowoc. So there's the added pieces when you aren't necessarily right on the Badger, that you get to experience the same thing. I remember
for sure.
Our friends moved town last year, and the first time we crested the hill at Ferry coming down to the avenue, and you could see the Badger coming in front of the condos, they were like, their kid asked if that was the Titanic because of the way it dwarfs everything around it. So it's just a cool experience, even for family and friends when they see it for the first time, kind of emerging. It's an awesome experience.
If you're on land as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's always amazing to see people's first impressions of the boat of oh, we heard it was a big boat, but wow, we weren't expecting it to be that big, or however.
Oh, yeah. I have a funny, my mom is coming. We're gone the long weekend that the Badger starts, the 18th, I believe it's a Thursday. And she said, she's going to watch our kids, and we're leaving that morning to go on a small trip. But she said, I'm going to take the Badger. So you're going to find somebody to watch the kids until I get there. She'll be here at 7. So after school, because she wants to take it. She doesn't want to drive. So that's just, it's funny how it kind of really fits into our lives. Being able to plan life around it, but count on having she'll be there at 7, she'll make it in on time. Yep.
And
Absolutely.
No, that's awesome. We talked about it a little bit, but what is it like with traveling with your kids and family on board?
It depends on the age, I guess.
We have little ones. It was easy at first. I mean, it's still easy. The stateroom is gold for us. We, regardless of naps and all of that, that is a place for us to, the cruise director's office is helpful too, to put things behind stateroom. Very helpful for us to just have a place to go back to. That's private, for toys, naps, all the things. But that as far as playing with kids on the Badger, we use that as our home base, and then we explore. So our son wants to walk down the halls and loves it. Loves going back and forth, saying hi to all the people. The kid room, he's loving. The toy room, and even exploring the gift shop, looking at bingo eventually when he gets a little bit older. He just loves exploring the whole Badger and, honestly being outside. Mitch loves to be outside most of the time. So Otto is doing that as well.
Yeah, but it's awesome because you can plop him down with his plate, his rubber plate in front of the kids movie.
Oh yeah.
And he can have, whether it's breakfast or it's dinner, he can have one of them. And then for the rest of the ride, he's more relaxed and calm because he's eaten at that point. But now that we have our daughter who's 10 months old, she's the age that our son was when we first started taking him across in the Badger, and that's a different experience because they are just chill. Like they can relax.
Right.
We can get them taking a nap. Whereas now our son at 2.5, going to be 3 by the end of the Badger season. There's no taking a nap on the Badger anymore. It's go, go, go. Let's have fun the entire time. So yeah, as Becky said, he and I will go up and just do laps up top.
How fun.
Especially when it's a windy day because he really enjoys the wind. So it's a lot of fun.
Oh, cute. Well,
Yeah.
and if you walk 6 miles around the upper deck, it is a mile. So you can get your steps in. And I'm glad you mentioned the stateroom because a lot of people, ask about those where, it's the 2 beds, the toilet, sink, chair. But it's really interesting of that they were original to the boat. Like that was part of the passenger caveat of sailing back in the day, that they are authentic, but people still enjoy them for multiple different reasons. That's great that you get to experience them the way you do. But I have to say too, I was just thinking, talking about your kids, like I'm pretty sure I've met you both, before my time at the Badger and through the community, but I'm pretty sure I've met both of your kids now on board. Like I remember you bringing them in the car seat, like, let me open the door for you. Like how cool, like watch them kind of grow up. But Otto is probably getting his sea legs by now. Like he's becoming kind of a frequent sailor, if you will. That I'm glad to hear that he's enjoying everything. Yeah, that's awesome. And
yeah, even last year, was it last year that we did the later season one where it was the August one with our friends? That it was not the most comforting ride from a sea level in waves. But Otto, our friends, that was their first time on the Badger. They didn't have as easy of a time. Otto, that was his, 10th ride on the Badger. It didn't bother him in the slightest. He and I just walked around. He'd wobble a little bit at, 2 years old, but could walk around fairly easily. But so it's really cool to kind of see him be able to adapt and be able to handle that because he's so experienced at riding it at this point.
Yeah, he talks about the Badger boat all the time. My grandma coming on the Badger boat, my grandpa coming on the Badger boat. Can we go see the Badger boat? Yes. We can. Not moving right now. We can go see it. So,
yeah, well, and we're just gearing him up that you have to be 16 to work on board the boat. So hopefully by the time he's 16, he'll definitely have his sea legs by then.
He'll be ready to go.
He'll be a car runner, 110%. I'm sure.
Well, we'll count on it. We'll put it on the calendar and give him a call when he's ready. Wonderful. Well, I know we've already talked about a lot of different things on board, but what is it that you look forward to most when you're on board and sailing on the Badger?
Oh, it depends on the type of trip. If it's just Becky and I, or if I'm going over for a golf outing in June with a friend of mine.
Oh, awesome.
And so we'll be heading over on June 16th or 17th and coming back on the 21st. Like on the ride over, as soon as we hit 10, 11 o'clock, having a Badger Blue is a really nice thing. Because you can just relax and go outside on a nice day. That is probably my favorite thing, is just getting up and walking around and seeing all the people, and especially on the really calm days like we have sometimes on Lake Michigan, and just having the glass out there. It's stunning.
Everybody's in a good mood. A lot of people's first experience, so it's fun to reshare that first experience with a lot of people because it reminds you of your early days of riding. There's always smiles. Nobody's ever in a bad mood. Our kids my oldest is running everywhere, and everybody's the parent at that point helping us. He walks a little too far away, somebody brings him back. Things like that. We really enjoy that. If it's Mitch and I, he's got a point. We like to walk around. We like to read. We're excited to get there. We're not dreading the trip. We know we can relax, read a book, there's just plenty to do. With the kids, same thing. We know there's plenty of space for them to enjoy the 4-hour ride. And it never feels like 4 hours. Never, ever.
I will say we are not Badger bingo players. I've probably played a half a dozen times since I've been alive. Right. But it is fun to walk through there. And then when they do the random, quiz games, those are fun to participate in. However, sitting for bingo is not our thing.
I probably would if it was your thing.
But no, I think this is great conversation though around that every time is different. There's always something different to do. And back to like what Becky said, that there's so many people who say, what am I going to do for 4 hours? And then get off the ship and say 4 hours is not enough. And, and, we talk a lot about the bingo, but you're right. We do have trivia. We have other things to look forward to. And it's funny of like, there's some people who really get into the trivia and people who are super into the bingo. Like, I'm sure there's people probably listening saying, oh, thank God there's someone who doesn't want to play bingo. That means more prizes for me. The best way. Yep. But, it's just always cool to see what like people think of the boat and what they look forward to. But especially, I will never get tired of that first experience that people have. It's so funny of like what people get out of it, or how just amazing it is that we get to continue on this legacy and share with new people year after year, and even returning passengers too.
Oh, absolutely. And the Badger is less of like a transportation mode and more. It's not an airplane. It's more of an airport. You go into an airport and you see people that and you can have good conversation. You're on an airplane, you can't do that because you got to sit in your seat. I remember a few years ago, my father and I went over to the Ryder Cup at Whistling Straits, and that Badger ride there and the ride back was chock full of people going to the Ryder Cup, and it was really cool to talk to them about, hey, where did you find a place to stay? What are you looking forward to? And then on the way back, what did you see? What did you buy? And those aren't conversations you can have on a plane or in a car, frankly, because it's just an immediate family or friends. And so the Badger allows for those sorts of interactions that you don't get normally. And that's a lot of fun.
So true. And I talk about it a lot, especially in this podcast setting, is that the Badger just has this spirit about her to help connect people, whether it's connecting with people on the other side, but even on board. It's always cool to see the new friendships that stem from passengers meeting. And I hear that often of like, oh, we had this friend that we met on board and now we sail with them all the time. Or, especially the Ryder Cup, like that was such a unique opportunity for people to get to Wisconsin. I'm just glad we were able to connect with people from all over, because we're like physically and literally connecting people in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
It's pretty fun. And then you will also be happy to know we are excited to open the actual kids port this year. So we'll have more than just the game room. So there'll be some fun things for your kids to do when they're on board. So
they will love it.
Yeah, we're really excited to offer that, and some new activity books on board so that parents can play or do the activities with the kids. So it'll be a really fun.
That's always one of my favorite parts of the beginning of the season as well, is what's new this year. What's going on? How are we? You're familiar with your routine and love that and looking forward to that, but there's always something new to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we're excited. This year we'll have some new paint and flooring and new things that obviously it's an important time to take a pause and talk about the 70 years in the history, but she does have a bright future ahead of her. And we're just thankful that there's passengers and families like you that want to keep sailing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So what was like your first experience or memory of the Badger? Because I know you guys sail all the time. Had you sailed before you lived here? Did you sail like years ago? What was that like?
We've been married 10 years, and we've probably been sailing 12 together. That's probably my entire experience.
I sailed as a kid probably a couple of times, but man, trying to remember back to that.
You grew up in the family. Yeah. It's part of your life.
The bigger thing back there again was, being there the first run of the year and the last run of the year. Whether you rode on it that year or not, it was just it was part of living in Mason County that you go out and watch it at some place along its departure or arrival. But I remember the first couple times that we rode it back and forth to visit each other, and you're by yourself on the Badger, and so you're doing whatever you can to stay focused because you're still dating at this point in time, not really sure what in the world you're doing. Riding on a boat of this size to go see your significant other, but yeah,
I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fun time, but it allows you to kind of decompress for a little bit.
Yeah. I think, looking at my first experience, you just don't know what you've been on ferries before, and, they're just, this one's not something that you would call a ferry in the sense of the word, right?
Right. No, so true.
It's an experience, and it's, it's not just getting from A to B, like you said. It's, it wasn't what I expected at all as a young person riding, just, that to come see Mitch from Wisconsin here. Just the comfort level and the just describing it to other people, watching my family the first time ride it, or my grandparents, they visited me a couple of years ago here in their 90s. And it was just a wonderful way for them to come over comfortably. In the, dead of summer they just loved it. And just to hear their experience of it's just not what we were expecting. And, it was just wonderful to lots of, the people we were able to talk to. And, we were able to sit and be comfortable. And again, the 4-hour trip didn't seem that long. So it's fun to hear it from other people's mouths of their first experience, because we've been doing it a long time now. Just that's not what you're experiencing, what you think you're gonna go through when you get on there. Even when you see it. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And it's funny, when you look back at the history of the Badger, it was built to carry railroad cars across Lake Michigan, where today we carry all sorts of different vehicles, semis, motor coaches, motorcycles, cars, you name it, we've carried it. And it's always so funny. Like, people are like, what? You can take a semi on a boat? Like, how does that happen? So it's always cool, like, just the different things. People are like, oh, I got to go on this boat, and they took a semi, or they took this speedboat, or fun. It's just
wind turbines. I always remember that.
Yeah, I think one of our first rides here from when we lived in Wisconsin was it was back during doubles, I think, and we came over on the overnight one, and we were the last car off, and the second to last vehicle off was one of the giant wind turbines that had dual controlled axle that took 10 minutes to get off the boat. And we're just sitting here, not even caring that our car is still on the boat, but we're watching this thing come off with some miracle of being able to do that. It's pretty cool to see what comes off that vessel.
Yeah. No, it is. And I will gladly, do whatever for this ship, but I will let them load and unload it. Like, I'll help out again, but they make it look easy. And especially with the wind turbines, I didn't know till more recently that those wind turbines were actually built right outside of Manitowoc. So talk about a really cool connection that in the history and researching different things, that there's so many connections between Ludington and Manitowoc that the car ferry still makes viable today. That I'm glad you brought up the wind turbines, because when we load them, they're just inches apart, that they are massive, but it's just a great, I don't want to say gift, because there's a lot more to it than that, but that Manitowoc has helped provide Ludington and vice versa and things.
Oh, absolutely.
It's cool to see those connections. So we talked about it a little bit, but I just want to ask you again, in case if there's anything else you want to add. What is your favorite thing about the Badger?
I guess for mine is the staff on board. If we're talking about the Badger specifically and not just the experience, I think the staff on board is phenomenal. Whether that is whether they are the folks that are behind in the galley cooking the food and they're just having a smile on their face, even though the person in front of me may have been a little cranky because they haven't gotten their coffee quickly enough, or it's Scoop with Bingo, or it's whoever is acting as cruise director that day. Or it's, the captain and whoever's, in charge of the vessel. It was last year during that rougher ride back where we were out on the front of the vessel, out on the top deck. And before we took off from Manitowoc, and my son's looking up at the windows from the pilot's house, and the captain just waves down at him and goes goes to cover his ears to have my son cover his ears because the horn was about to blow.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Well, it's little things like that kind of are really cool to experience on there, and to know that the people that are on there not only care about the work they do, but the people that they provide it to. So.
No, definitely. And thank you. Because it's like, we really do have an amazing staff that make it easy to come into work every day, but also they're very eager to have those passengers come on board and welcome them, and excited to have them sail, because we can't do what we do without our amazing passengers too. But, but thank you for the kind words about the group. Becky, if you had anything to add about your favorite thing.
I think my favorite, it's one of the only times as a busy working, mom, wife, friend, all the things that we all are, that I can truly relax. I don't have to care. I get on. I don't have to worry about my day-to-day to-do list, things like that. It's just a fun experience. It's, I'm not worried about my phone. I'm not worried about this or that that I normally would day to day. I'm just enjoying walking around with my kids, by myself, enjoying all of our normal haunts that we have a routine that we do when we get on there. Not that we really thought about it until now, but we definitely do. So it's one of the only times I can truly relax, and that's my favorite part.
Well, and that makes me so happy to hear that, because that's what we want people to feel on board. And it's awesome. I mean, knowing you, but awesome that you feel that experience on board, because it's like our crew does an amazing job, but they really take pride in what they do, and that we want passengers to have that experience.
Yeah, they take care of people. It's nice seeing familiar faces year to year too. That's wonderful.
I would say that my least favorite thing about the Badger isn't actually the Badger itself. It's the fact that Becky likes to show up literally as the last vehicle to go on every time. And I like to be early so that I can just go and chill in the stateroom, walk around and get some popcorn. And that never happens. We are always the last ones in. Half the time, all the seats are taken up in, the bingo area. It is very difficult. But then the Badger folks are very kind, and I get in a better mood. It just takes a little while to get to that point, because we are always so late.
We're not late. We're always make the sale.
Well, I think that might just be a testament to how our crew, obviously cares and notices who's coming on board, but just saying like, hey, we'll get these people safely on board and disembark on time.
They always do it. And, we need to sometimes get there a little earlier. I think he's making it sound terrible. Maybe 30 minutes beforehand,
Well, he's just excited to get on board. I get it. And then
he wants to get on
ready and
that relaxing state that we have. He's excited for that. And, but he's an early bird and I'm an on-time bird. So there you go.
Nothing wrong with that. Isn't that what marriage is?
Exactly.
I like that.
Yes.
Compromise, right?
Exactly. Perfect.
And now a word about our partners in our port cities. If your idea of the perfect vacation is sugar sand beaches, clear blue waters along 28 miles of Lake Michigan shoreline, outdoor adventures, climbing to the top of historic lighthouses, or exploring a charming downtown, Ludington is your destination for pure Michigan fun. Ludington's unspoiled natural resources offer the quintessential up-north experience, all within easy reach, located at the intersection of US 31 and US 10. No matter what you're seeking, a beach or outdoor adventure, a peaceful getaway, or just a community of friendly faces, you can find it all in pure Ludington. As a Ludington native, I know I sound biased, but Ludington is truly an astonishing place. There's always something going on, amazing places to dine and get drinks, along with unique attractions you won't find just anywhere. Plan your visit today at pureludington.com. Manitowoc, the maritime capital of Wisconsin, is the perfect vacation destination for those seeking adventure, a little relaxation, or a whole lot of fun. With sandy beaches, miles of biking and hiking trails, a real World War II submarine that you can both climb aboard and sleep on, a strong art scene, variety of breweries to explore, and array of annual events and festivals, Manitowoc offers so many unique and exciting options for visitors to add to their travel itinerary. As a frequent visitor to Manitowoc, I can attest to the thriving and charming downtown. From classic candy and ice cream parlors to outdoor music venues, there's so much to explore, experience, and enjoy in Manitowoc. I always look forward to going back. Start planning your getaway to Manitowoc, Wisconsin at visitmanitowoc.com.
So in your own words, what would you say the Badger means to the community?
Oh, man.
I know that might be kind of broad.
It's broad, but it's just big, and the impact is massive. Whether if we talk about the vessel itself, during just singles, it's 500 potentially a day coming over people. During doubles, you're talking about 1,000. You're talking about the economic impact of the people that work there, that live in Ludington in part of the summertime, or that live in Manitowoc. It's the cultural feeling that it gives the community about we are proud of the Badger, the fight over the coal back in the day, and being a big part of that, and the idea behind it. it hits so many different areas, the historical nature of it, and the pride that our historical society and folks have in that area. It's massive, and it's
For sure.
frankly, it ends up being what Ludington is known for. Once you ride on it, it's an easy identifier to say, "Oh, I remember Ludington. That's where the Badger's out of." And so it's a massive deal for our community.
It extends, I'm executive director at Ludington Woods Assisted Living, and the Badger plays a big role with our residents because a lot of them have ties. My husband works on
definitely.
that, and there were 7 parks. We have a big picture of it at the entrance that Jason Miney did for us a few years ago, and so it's just a nice talking piece. We show them a video. We go to the Maritime Museum where the Badger is accentuated every year. It's just to hear the stories from my residents who are in their 90s, 80s of what the car ferries meant to them and mean to them still, and what the Badger means to them, especially with the 70-year, is huge. So it really is far extending through a lot of generations. So
yeah, and it's always so cool to see, especially that generational aspect of it, because back in the 1930s, Ludington was the largest car ferry port in the world, and the Badger is kind of the last of the legacy of those car ferries that came in and out. And that's kind of part of the point behind this podcast too, is that the boat is amazing, and she's beautiful and has this bright future ahead of her, but it's the people and the voices behind her that have added to her legacy and made sure that she has this bright future. And you talk about like your residents and stuff, it's always so humbling to hear those 80, 90-year-olds who say, "Oh, back in my day, this is what I did. This is how I contributed," all the way from the captain, all the way down to customer service and people in the engine room. You don't have to go far in the community to hear those stories of what they got to do or what their parents did. And it's funny, it's humbling, it pulls on your heartstrings often, but it's just amazing that we still have her today and get to continue, these conversations that here we are at 70 talking about her. Where are we going to be for the next celebrations of talking about her history at that point,
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. And I think the previous ownership group did a lot to redevelop the old car ferry docks and those locations throughout the years. And now with Interlake and the new ownership group, having something that's really cool now, I'd love to see a frame photo of it, is the Mark Barker and the Badger going right next to each other, because that's the newest ship in their fleet with the Badger, which has got to be one of the oldest ships in their fleet. It's a pretty cool experience, and I think Interlake taking over ownership really is going to be a bright spot for Ludington and Manitowoc and for the entire experience moving forward.
Definitely. And yeah, the Badger has this great history, but we do have to give credit to our previous owners to make sure that she had this bright future. That's been great having Interlake join us. That makes me really excited, to think about where the Badger will be in these next 70 years. That I think a good visual testament was the brand new paint job of 800 gallons when she was in dry dock. It's a visual testament to the bright future ahead.
Exactly.
For sure. So the Badger is celebrating 70 years of service in 2023. How does it feel to be a part of that legacy?
We're excited to be a part of it. We're excited that, that this is already a big part of our lives, and we just happened to stumble upon this big celebration when we feel that celebration every year when we're riding it anyway. But it means a lot to our community and to our family, and all the friends we've brought on now who just enjoy it and just love. We talk about the Badger being on it, but we overlook the being on land and watching it. I keep my kids home from daycare for Otto the last few years, the first day it runs, because it's so fun to go and watch it and see his excitement and just the memories now that he has.
Yeah, and to know that he is, he is going to be he's the next generation to ride it and to experience the 70th year. And then, what does the 100th year look like for the Badger? So 30 years from now, he'll be toting us back and forth for grandkids as well at that point in time, potentially. It's cool to think about those things and the legacy that the Badger plays for families. And not just a community, but families that have been riding it or have been employed by it or have just, been a part of the experience for this many years.
Definitely. And like I said, we can't do what we do without our wonderful passengers. And we just really appreciate you sailing and bringing your friends and bringing your family. But it's been awesome to get to know you through the side of the Badger, but even in your professional lives, that all you do for Ludington and still making this a great destination to come and visit, but also, honoring those memories and making it part of that legacy and taking it forward. That I really appreciate your time today and appreciate you sharing your stories and chatting. It's been great to having you join us today.
Thanks, Shelby.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.